Hi, my name is David Robinson, and I'm the cheese buyer for Formaggio Kitchen in Cambridge and Boston, Massachusetts. So just like wine, there is a very specific way to taste Comté. This involves all of the senses. Your first step in tasting Comté involves looking at the cheese. There is a big difference between summer and wintertime cheeses. The milk from the summertime has more carotene in it, and therefore your Comté will end up with a more yellow color. During the wintertime, when there's less grass and more hay, you end up with a more white color. Your next step in looking at the Comté involves the amino acids. In your younger cheeses, the amino acids have barely started to form into crystals. As it ages, the crystallization has come full form, and so you have very large white pieces of crystal in it. After you've looked at the cheese, your next step is to smell the cheese. It is important to smell directly from the center of the cheese. Now there's a lot of diversity in the smell of the Comté, and this can be for many reasons. It could be from the cow's diet, it could be from the time of year, or it could even be from the cave in which the Comté is aged in. Your next step is actually tasting the cheese. Now in tasting the cheese, it's very important to note the texture. The younger the Comté, as this one we're about to taste right here, at 11 months is very creamy and a little bit soft. As the cheese will age, it'll start to firm up a little bit, maybe even become a little bit more crumbly, such as this cheese right here, the 36 month, and it just sort of snaps. In tasting the cheese, just to get your initial flavor, you want a smaller amount. Sometimes it's fun to press it in your fingers just to get a little bit of texture so you know exactly what you're dealing with. It also helps to sort of warm up the cheese so that you get more flavor and more aroma out of it, just like when you swirl a glass of wine. Now, just like a glass of wine, there's a lot of different flavors that are going to be happening from the beginning until the end. And so the piece of cheese will end up tasting a little bit different from when it hits the front of your palate and ends up in the back of your palate. In this piece of Comté, there's a little bit of smell of the grass and sunflower of which these cows were eating. The taste, however, is very different. It's actually very fruity, and none of the grass and none of that sunflower that you get in your nose is actually going to end up in your palate. There's a little bit more apple. There's also little hints of lemon and just a little bit hint of wood. And now when we get into the 36 month, we're talking about a very different flavor profile. So this smells a little bit of tobacco and a little bit of dark chocolate. But after you taste it is where you really get the significant difference. The flavor profile of this one is really dark coffee and really dark chocolate. And like wine, Comté has a very long finish. Pay attention to those flavors that linger in the back of your mouth. Now, training your palate is not only fun, but it'll also help you decide and figure out which Comté you prefer. Personally, I prefer these 11-month to 12-month-old Comtés. To me, these younger wheels of Comté are the most complex.